welcome along to Point Blank Music School here in London, where today I'm joined in the studio by Anthony Chapman, producer and Point Blank tutor, for this week's edition of Friday Forum Live. So for those of you guys that have never tuned in before, Friday Forum Live is your chance to find out a little bit more about Point Blank and what we do, and also to get an insight into the work of a producer like Anthony, and to learn some new skills basically. So today Anthony's actually going to give us a pretty kind of exclusive really insight into Live 9. I think, when did it come out? Yesterday?
No, it was on the 5th.
The 5th, okay,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're going to get a look at Live 9 and some of the new features, some of the stuff that probably you haven't seen so much bouncing around on YouTube yet. So yeah, just before we get into that, it's also worth pointing out a few things that are going on at Point Blank at the moment. So if you head over to the blog, pointblankonline.net/blog, we've got a competition that we teamed up with Shure to win. You can win one of 4 pairs of headphones, studio quality professional headphones. That one, all the details are on Point Blank Plus. Really simple, just click through to the link and you can sign up and be in with a chance to win. Also, there's a few other bits that have happened this week. Today we've actually got Goldie in the studio downstairs and DJ Spoonie, strangely enough, in one building at the same time. So yeah, in a couple of weeks' time probably you'll be able to see highlights of what happened there. Goldie in the studio doing some Ableton work with tutor Johnny. Also on the blog there's masterclass highlights from the session that we had a while ago with Shadow Child, a producer on Dirty Bird who's doing amazing stuff at the moment. One of the best masterclasses of the year, really, that one. It was really fantastic, good, really cool. So yeah, really good to see someone kind of at the top of their game giving a real insight into their tracks, into their remix process as well. So check the highlights, that's on YouTube and via the blog as well. And apart from that, it's also worth saying, you guys, that the Friday Forum is your chance to ask any questions as well. You know, it's an open forum. Anything that you want to know, whether it's on a technical standpoint, you know, Anthony will be more than happy to help you out. If it's stuff about course info, about Point Blank in general, then, you know, I'll more than happy to answer your questions. So you guys get involved in the chat room, post in there, and we'll run through them as we go, and we'll try and get as many questions done as we can. And in the meantime, I'll hand you over to Anthony for a look at Live 9.
No worries, thank you. Okay, so what I was going to do today is, I'm sure quite a few of you watching this are using Live 9 already. It's been out a few days. I know a lot of people have had the beta. I wasn't in the beta, so what I wanted to do today was look at it from the perspective of somebody who's just upgraded. Somebody who's an experienced user, but who's just upgraded to 9. Now, some of the new features are possibly things that you've not seen covered that much in like videos on YouTube and articles on blogs and stuff like that. Perhaps they're not quite so sexy as some of the stuff that gets put out there. Audio to MIDI, I guess, is the big one that the big one that you see everywhere. I'm not going to look at that today because I know even, you know, Ski and Danny and people like that at Point Blank have already covered that quite nicely. And it's also a little bit difficult to do in the live sort of situation. But there's some other stuff which has been mentioned a few times, which I think is really crucial and is probably worth checking out. And I've heard a lot of people say, oh, I don't think Live 9's really got much in it. I don't think they've really added much, and I think it's worth looking at some of these things to sort of to see what really has been added and what's been tweaked. So I've just put together a little session with a few clips here. Okay, I'm just going to give it a little blast so we can hear what we're dealing with. Started on this is like full on. Okay, so it's just some simple patterns and stuff like that. Got this whoosh machine here as well. If you've not got the whoosh machine, well worth getting it from Sonic Faction. It's a free device for doing like white noise flashes and rises and stuff like that. Okay, so that's just our sort of full Monty of the clips. Now, probably the biggest addition in 9 that they've done in the sort of session view is the ability to record clip automation, like full-on clip automation now. Before you had envelopes where you could sort of automate some parameters, and that's fine. But in session view, you couldn't actually get on to a parameter, tweak it, and record that in the clip.
That's right, yeah.
Okay, so we can actually do that now. So if we just have a look at, let's start with this bass part here, okay? So this is just one of the pure magnetic retro synths sounds, which I think comes with Suite now. I already had it, but I think it's one of the ones that comes with Suite.
I know Suite is pretty massive.
Yeah. Well, as I was showing you earlier, I had about 90 gig free on my drive, and I've now got under 30. So it's pretty huge.
Be prepared.
So this is my standard bass line here. If I, so I've got a bit of a tweak there, and if we look down here at the device, you can see what's happening. And the various parameters have got the telltale little red spot there, which is telling us that there's automation going on. So, just to demonstrate how we actually do that, let's copy this basic bass pattern down here, and I'll just run that. Okay, and what we need to do is, there's 2 buttons at the top here which are crucial. This yellow one here, automation arm, when that's on, you're able to record parameter changes into clips manually. Okay. And then basically we have this session record button, and this again is a new feature. This is kind of a global record for parameters into clips. So while I'm running that, okay, if I now turn that on and start to play around with this. Okay. So I already had some automation on that one. Yeah, this is another feature here again, which. So if you look, I'm playing this with automation on, but if I move the automation, move the parameter that's being automated, it stops dead. And basically, I've interrupted the automation, so I've taken it over. So if you're in a live environment, you could get in there and manually tweak those parameters, and then basically it just stops running that automation pattern you've got already.
So you've got ultimate control at that
Exactly.
point.
But then if you want to bring it back, this orange button here at the top, the re-enable automation button, as soon as you turn that in, the automation comes back. So it's quite a nice system for kind of managing, if you want automation, that's great, but then if you're in the live environment and you just want to get in there and control it manually, you can do that without it losing your automation or sort of you fighting the automation,
which is
a
something
classic thing.
As a Logic user, it's so frustrating fighting against the automation that you've already got in there.
Exactly.
It's a real pain.
Yeah, and because this is focused on a sort of a live sort of thing, then it's absolutely, it's a really, really useful thing.
Definitely.
The one thing to bear in mind about the automation, the clip automation, is that it's all absolute. So for those of you who don't know what that means, basically your automation parameters, the exact position is recorded. So for example, on the filter frequency, it could be like, it would record that it's at 1.27 kilohertz, rather than relative, which records like sort of plus and minus from a point. Because a lot of automation elsewhere in live, certainly in 8, was relative, and so if you change something and then ran the automation, it would behave differently because it would just add or subtract values to the automation that you've got. So this it's quite a nice system, and I've been playing around with it for a few days, and it seems to work well. So here we have a little view of the kind of tweaks that are being recorded. Now also, if we go into some of the more kind of traditional envelopes, okay, so if we have a look at the track volume here, and if I just this is another tweak as well. You'll see what I mean about not sexy stuff. Single click to do envelope nodes now. Which is really, really, I know it seems like nothing.
Frustrating before.
I know, because you would think, did I double click it or did I single click it? And then you would end up making a node and it would disappear again, or, So honestly, it is good. And we can sort of get in there, make our nodes, change our envelope and stuff like that. But we also have we can do curves now. Let me just find one where I can demonstrate it a little better. Hang on a second. So this is just our little beat here. Hang on a second. There we go. So there's our, that's our classic envelope shape. Obviously, it's not necessarily the most useful automation, making the volume go up really far. But what is cool is being able to do that.
That's wicked.
So basically, now you hold down Alt, and you get this curve symbol, and you can do curves on the envelopes. So this is the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. Not sexy, not headline grabbing, but actually really useful, really, really genuinely useful.
And these are clearly just kind of, you can imagine getting feedback from performers or from producers, very small tweaks that needed to happen. Really.
Exactly, yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, just in my few days of using Live 9, the session view has become just that bit more interesting to me.
Yeah, I think it's something lots of guys that I know tend like they just work purely in the arrangement view and don't even touch the session view.
I started off using Live by starting my tracks in the arrangement view, in the session view.
Right.
Sorry. Then when I got to sort of critical mass, I would dump it all over into the arrangement view, and then just carry on from there. Never go back to the session view, like never at all.
So the session was your kind of idea sketch.
Yeah, it was like the palette. I'd get my palette going, and then once I got to like say 7 or 8 tracks, I'd usually think, oh yeah, okay, I've got like
I've got enough.
I've got enough to start arranging this properly. But now I think with the recording the clip automation and stuff like that, that it's really
that is
I'm sort of started to think, oh yeah, I could do like. I could come up with the main body of a track in here and not worry about the arrangement view until
it's something that I've definitely seen. We had Saytek in, and he did a thing where he would kind of similarly build up a palette in session view and then just record the mix, record the arrangement. And it's something that I've always wanted to work like that, but it's kind of held me back slightly. I don't know what it is.
Well, that is a really good point, because that is something where there's another cool feature. So thank you.
That's all right. Yeah. I've done this before.
So I can tell. So one thing that we can do with Live 9 that we haven't been able to do previously as well is do exactly that. Record our session into the arrangement view, but then there's now a really easy way of getting it back into the session view. Okay. Because if you think about it, in the you might do an arrangement and think, that was fantastic. How can I do that live? Now we can just, it's almost a one-click solution to send stuff back into the session view. Cool. Okay. So I'm just going to get rid of this automation here. Okay. So if I'm going to stop all my clips. Okay. And I'm going to go back to the start. And I'm just going to put it into record, and I'm just going to start recording a little arrangement, okay? There's a little clip automation in this vocal sample for the delay.
Okay.
So I've just again, that's the sort of stuff that you really wanted to do before, And then if I drop like the bass line in. Okay, then we've got these strings, and this is one bit of the new sound library that I'm really enjoying, is these new strings, which seem to be really nice. Like you were saying,
you played me.
For grime.
Yeah, definitely. You played me them earlier, they sound great, don't they? Really good.
Okay, and I'll just stop that. So we've got our little arrangement we've done there, okay? So there it is in there. Now, one thing that's changed slightly is we used to have up the top here, there used to be the back to arrangement button, I think it was called, which was the pink one up there, which was always the telltale. As soon as you touched anything in the session view, it would, when you were in arrangement, you touched anything in here, it would come back. They've moved it down here, okay? So this is our back to arrangement view. So if I turn that on, or off rather, we've now got our arrangement here. Okay, so just play a little bit of that. Okay, so that's that's our arrangement that we recorded. Okay, so if I come back into here and I'm going to select this scene down here, number 8, and let's pop back into the arrangement view. And what I can do is just select all of this. Okay, I'll just go from there. So this is like, this starts exactly where we want it to.
Yeah.
And then I right click, and we have this command here, consolidate time to new scene. So if I click on that, and it starts doing a little consolidate. And so basically what it's doing here is it's making a new scene from all of those clips. So even some of this is audio, like my shaker is audio, it's consolidated that down into a new audio file. So now if I want to, so if I've done an arrangement that I like in session view and I want to like get to that in one click, that's it there. That's like the whole thing. And then obviously once I've got that in there, I can take that out and break it down in session view. I can do
so I guess
automation.
if you're a live performer, you know, and you're experimenting and you suddenly hit on something amazing, you know.
Yeah, you can actually, if you've been recording your work in the session view and the arrangement view, which I guess most people doing that live stuff would be, you go, oh, that bit was great, you know, just go back into the arrangement view, highlight it all, send it to a new scene, and then you know you've always got that there to call on at a moment's notice.
That's wicked. That's a really good
pretty
feature.
cool. Yeah, definitely. Cool. I don't know if you've got any questions or anything.
Let's have a quick look. We've actually got someone who said we've got connection problems. Are we all right over there? Yeah? All right, sounds good. Yeah. It sounds all right. Yeah, there aren't any questions at the moment, but yeah, do keep them coming.
No worries. No worries. Okay, so while I'm on possibly like the less sexy stuff, I may as well go all the way. Like, so the browser. Okay, so this is kind of, you know, something that Ableton have kind of trumpeted a little bit, and I know some people who were in the beta who really didn't get on with it.
Right.
But I think because I talk, and one of them is a tutor here,
right?
who really did not like the new browser when they first started using it.
Because I do remember Ableton making a bit of a deal about it as well.
Yeah, and I can see why, but I wonder if maybe when the beta came out, they didn't explain it very well.
Okay.
And I know that the Tutor X, who didn't like it, a couple of weeks later was like, oh, you know what, actually it's starting to make sense now.
Right, okay.
And it's just
to get your head round it.
Yeah, the old browser in Live 8 was just like, chuck, everything's there. This huge splurge of stuff. There were a few categories down the side. I don't know about anybody else watching this, but I found it really easy to lose stuff in the, you know, I'd be sitting there going, where is it? Like, where is it? I'm sure I installed this pack. I'm sure I did this, So it's all kind of changed in as much as there's now a kind of a integrated Spotlight type of search.
Okay.
I'll probably get sued by Apple for Spotlight. But, and you could do that before, but you had to kind of actually manually go in and invoke a search, whereas now you can just do it from anywhere, you know. And so we've got this categories section here, and these are basically the categories of the Live 9 library. Okay, so sounds, drums, instruments, you got all sorts in there. Okay, Max for Live as well, because obviously with Suite,
that's right,
I'm using Suite, so now with Suite you get Max for Live, which is a great thing.
And have you made much use of it?
All I've done with Max for Live is use some of the plugins and the instruments that you get with it. I must admit, I've not got into actually programming on it.
To be fair,
I'd love to.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things for me about Max for Live is the kind of community around it. You know, the fact that people are always working on stuff, and you know, there's so much stuff available. It's going to be, you know, and it's obviously going to get bigger. You know, now it's kind of integrated even more. Yeah,
apparently I've been told that the lessons in Live for Max for Live are really good as well.
Okay, wicked.
So they're all in there already.
Yeah.
We got plugins. You know, I've still got all of my audio units and VST plugins there. I found the process of getting upgraded and getting the Live 8 library in there pretty painless. I didn't really have any problems. I know some people have had some problems, like stuff that's been missing. So we got all that. But what I really like is the places section under here. So again, this is similar to how it was before, in as much as you can add your own folders. So I've got that's my samples folder there. So that's all my samples that I've got on my hard drive. But one thing that I think is really handy is just having a section for packs. So every
Right,
live
okay.
pack that you
Yeah,
install
yeah.
is always there. So you can always go in there and find it. We can also find it by searching. We do the spotlight search, but I just know all my packs are there because I honestly did, you know, perhaps it was my fault, I don't know. But with Live 8, I would get packs, I would download packs, install it, and then I'd go, oh yeah, I really want to use that 808 pack that I installed, and then I'd be like, where is it? I can't find it. You know?
I think it's, you know, anything to help your housekeeping. It's amazing, you know.
Exactly.
Like, you know, me, I'm sure loads of people out there are pretty terrible at keeping neat and tidy. So, you know, having any kind of help there has got to be, you know, a massive positive.
But it is really handy. It's really handy. But truly not very sexy or jazzy or, you know, definitely.
We've actually got a couple of questions,
Cool.
non-sexy questions you'll be happy to
Oh, well, good.
We've got Quasar has asked, what's the biggest change regarding the workflow in Ableton?
Whoa, the biggest change is probably all related to that clip automation, I think, because they've added so much, and then also that consolidate time to new scene is great. And that is, I mean, like we were going through that scenario, a kind of live performer. That's making a huge difference.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd say they're definitely the biggest sort of workflow changes. Most of the other changes are sort of tweaks or additions, like new stuff.
Okay, cool. And we've got another question from RJ Nom, who's asked, a bit of a technical one, if he installs a 64-bit version, will the 32-bit plugins work with it?
Oh, now, David, the college manager, was looking at stuff like this the other day because he was trying to work out which version to use.
Right.
If I remember rightly, now this is just from memory of looking over his shoulder, I'm sure Ableton have said that they don't have any plans to release a 64 to 32-bit bridge. You probably want to check that with Ableton.
Yeah, it might be worth checking with Ableton directly.
But I think they've got a really good sort of help document about the 64-bit version. And what they're kind of saying at the moment is, unless you absolutely need to use the 64-bit version, you should try to use the 32-bit version. The thing to remember as well is, if you don't have more than 4 gig of RAM, you're not going to get any benefit out of the 64-bit version anyway. But yeah, that is the problem. Until everybody is making 64-bit plugins, it's going to be a real problem. So if you're happy to run it and only use the factory stuff, then that would probably be okay. But if you're someone like me who uses a lot of third-party plugins, it's probably going to be safest sticking with the 32-bit.
And I think if that's their kind of advice, you know, stick with it.
I would check that out. It seemed like a really exhaustive document about kind of what to do. You know, I mean, thankfully, was that
RJ Nom who asked about that.
They're probably not going to have to upgrade quite as many workstations as poor David will have to. So, you know.
We've got another question about the glue compressor, which is something I'd heard about as well.
Well, do you know what? It's the next on my list.
There you go, look at that.
Next on my list.
People doing my job for me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Brilliant. Okay, so I've got what I want to look at next is, and this is a little bit more fun, you know, is the new devices and also the sort of enhanced devices. Okay. And the big sort of headline grabbing one is the glue compressor.
Definitely.
So if we I'm actually using quite a few instances of it on this track. Okay. So if I bring up the master here, so I've got one down here. Okay. I'll just turn it on. It's actually not turned on at the moment. I'm using this other one. So the glue compressor is by Cytomic. It's already been available for a couple of years as a VST, AU and an RTAS plugin. And the Cytomic guys, if I remember rightly, have previously done stuff at F Expansion and some other sort of plugin companies. And basically what they've done is modelled an SSL X-Logic G-Series bus compressor, which is basically really posh bus compressor. The compressor, I keep saying compressor, I keep saying it in my lessons. A really posh bus compressor that comes with SSL discs. So obviously, you know, this is pretty serious kind of kit. Now, the VST and AU version has a full interface which looks a bit like the hardware, but the live version they've kind of made it look like live. I don't really have a problem with that, although I do like to get a bit I don't know, I like to get a bit vibed up with plugins. If it looks like something, either some old bit of hardware or just something interesting. That's nice.
Yeah.
But this sounds really great, and I'm really, really impressed with it. If we just have a look at the drums, because I think I'm using a couple of them in the drums.
Okay.
If we open this up, so there's my beat, and you may remember, I can't remember if it was the last time I was in or the time before, where I was doing my parallel compression in the drum rack, which is like my sort of favourite technique, which possibly like I overuse, I don't know, but...
We've all got one of those,
yeah,
don't we?
exactly. So this is like our main beat, you know, it's typical sort of drum rack we've got going on here. Now on the whole sort of return of the beat, I've got the glue compressor here, okay? Now, it's most of the parameters are pretty recognisable. We've got our threshold and makeup here, attack, release and ratio here. Now the attack, the release and the ratio are stepped, so they can only do certain values. That's the same as the hardware, that's the effect that they're going for. We've got a dry and wet balance, which means you can actually do parallel compression just with the one plugin, because all you do is you make it like 50% wet or whatever. I'm taking it a bit further than that, but you know, because I like even more control. And then we've also got a soft clipping circuit there, which can kind of catch peaks as they come in. It just sounds great, you know. I just like to see that little light start to come on, and it just sounds nice. It's really sweet. Now this, I think, is really great. This is a super useful feature, the range here. And this basically just says, I only ever want you to compress by this amount at maximum.
Oh, right, okay.
So you can really crank the ratio up, the threshold and the ratio up, but knowing that it'll only ever compress by 10 dB, 5 dB, whatever, which is great, which is really good. I have to confess, I can't remember if the VST and audio units version of this has that. If anybody knows who wants to comment, that'd be good. I have used it, I can't remember. But this range feature is something that the Pro Tools channel strip, because I'm for like mixing and stuff like that, I'm mainly a Pro Tools user, and the Pro Tools channel strip they brought in version 10 has that feature on both the gate and the compressor, and it's so useful. Like I very often will sidechain that compressor over a bass off the kick drum, just to make room for the bass and the kick drum together. And you just go, oh, well, I only ever want it to compress by like 3 dB because you don't want it to totally squash. So it's really handy.
That is a really useful feature, actually.
Yeah, if we have a sort of quick listen to this, if I start to like really crank it on, it's nice, you know, it's like, it's not sort of like destroying it, you know, and this is actually compressing by getting up to sort of 10 dB. I'll sort of wind that off. See, the soft clip is catching the peaks, but it's still quite transient, you know, it's nice. I really, really think it's good. And then, of course, because it's me, I've made, well, if you look here, I've made a return chain with my with a glue compressor on it, which is on this track here, and then I'm just sending at the moment I'm just sending everything at 0 dB to that. So this is like another one, which is probably a little bit sort of faster and harder. You know, I could like turn the range up and like really even like go wild on it, you know. So that's our kind of parallel one, and the reason I like that is because I can start to like bring that in under everything else, just to give it a bit more punch.
About in that
exactly,
session,
and you really sort of start to like sculpt it a little bit. But I was doing that before with the factory compressor or with third-party plugins, but this works really well. I really like it. It's just thick and, you know, glue. It just says it glues everything together.
Who we had in before who was talking about it, and they were talking about the fact that it was going to be included in Live 9, you know, so it was quite an exciting feature for us as well.
Yeah, well, the glue compressor, I think the VST version is, I think it's $99, I think. Okay. So, you know, it's pretty good deal. Yeah. Chuck it in with Live, it's nice, you know. And I must admit, after using it in Live, I'm thinking maybe I'll go and buy the full one so I can use it in Pro Tools as well. Because I did demo it for a while and I did enjoy it, but at the time I didn't really think I needed it. But now I'm thinking, I'm getting it. So Cytomic, probably quite a canny move on their part, I think.
We've actually just got someone who said the Cytomic one does have the range knob.
Cool. Oh well, then I'm definitely going to buy it.
Brilliant. I might have to join you actually.
Cool, excellent. Is there any
We've got one about the kind of the big one, the audio to MIDI. Alam's asked, how accurate is it? How accurate is the conversion? Have you used it?
Yes, I have a little bit. I've not used it with sort of input that I've recorded. I've sent a few things into it.
Right.
And I think if you watch some of the demos online, you'll see that it's mixed results. You know, I think if you're expecting it to be perfect every time, you're going to be disappointed.
I think that's something, audio to MIDI, you're never really kind of gonna expect the absolute perfect conversion.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the most sophisticated audio to MIDI converters with guitars and stuff like that, they're really expensive, and they have to have like hexaphonic pickups where there's an individual kind of pickup for every string and all stuff like this. So the fact that you can go la 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 into the built-in mic of the MacBook Pro and get something resembling what you've done is pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
The beat stuff actually works really well, but you've just got to know that you're going to need to do a bit of editing, you know, because especially with breakbeats, because they're so compressed already, it picks everything out. But what you often find is there's snare drums on every beat, every kick drum. But you just have to do a bit of editing.
Yeah, well, it's kind of to be expected as well.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I didn't really want to. The only reason I'm not showing that today is because if you look on the Point Blank channel, I know there's a couple of videos already which have it in. There's loads out there.
Freddie's done it. Ski's done one as well.
Yeah, and also as you can imagine, it's we would have to have a mic or something.
Yeah.
And we would be really taking our lives in our hands in the live environment.
We've got another one. So let's have a look. Sam Hudson has asked, is it actually worth the upgrade, from 8 to 9, in your opinion at the moment, or is it worth, perhaps holding out a little longer?
It's a real tough question, that. For me, I had to, because I do use it for work sometimes. I do sometimes do a little bit, not at Point Blank, but other places I do bits of tuition on it, and I do sort of private tuition. And, I do use it for making, anything that I do that's kind of electronic, like beatsy, I tend to use this,
And then for this style, it's amazing.
Absolutely. And, it's hard to say, there is something to be said for if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I think really, if you use the session view a lot, then yes, I would say definitely it's worth the upgrade. If you mainly use the arrangement view, think about it, check it out. Maybe get the trial. I don't know if there is a trial of 9 yet.
I'm not sure if
there is. So get the trial and check it out. If you're already a user, it's not. It's a fairly reasonable upgrade price. It's not too bad.
That's true.
If you get it now, it's even cheaper. Until I think next Tuesday or Wednesday. So it's not too bad. But like I said, if you use the session view a lot, if you perform live, absolutely. I think that would be really
I think
good.
that's a key thing, really.
Yeah.
We might have a couple more. Someone's asked, actually, has the audio engine improved?
Well, remember Tutor X that I mentioned?
Yeah.
He tells me he thinks it has, and he's A-B'd it.
Okay.
And he's A-B'd projects that he did in 8, listened to them in 8, and then bounced it out, and then just A-B'd it with the output coming out of 9. And he says it sounds better. Now, I'm running the risk of completely cursing myself here. I've found it really stable so far.
Right.
Because Live 8, even the last updates of it, sometimes I found to be a little bit. It just seemed to be, if it got in a mood, it would have a bad day, But I was using lots of third-party plugins. Okay. So at the moment, I'm almost exclusively using the factory stuff because I'm trying to get used to using it all. But so far, I found it really stable. But the audio engine, I've got no complaints about it. Now, talking about the audio engine, I guess that could take us onto the mixer. Yeah, because they've actually made some really good improvements to the mixer. Cool. So this is an area close to my heart. Most of my sort of freelance work is mixing these days. Live, I would like to be able to use more as a mixing platform. Generally speaking, when I do anything in Live, if I write anything in Live, I almost always end up bouncing it out to Pro Tools eventually.
A lot of people are the same way, I think.
And I know a lot of people do it in Logic, they might rewire it in, you know. Although I don't tend to work too much in rewire, because obviously if you're using like VSTs or audio units, you can't run them when you're in rewire mode and stuff like that. So So they've made quite a few improvements to the sort of the layout of the mixer and made it a little bit more like a proper mixer. One of the main things being that every channel now has got this margin display here, so you can see what the peak level of the audio is.
Right.
Okay, so we can like run it there, and click on that one there. You see, it just tells us the peak on our snare track there. So this is like, perhaps not the kind of stuff people would think about all the time. But it's really, really important when you want to mix. Also, the fact that stuff like the returns track and the masters are actually kind of like labelled. The levels, the dB values are labelled at the side. This is like, it seems crazy to talk about this in 2013. But this is really important stuff that they've added. It's really, really nice. I think, I like to think that it's kind of, it's just kind of helping it be a little bit more of a sort of pro-y-ish sort of mixing platform. I will still do stuff in Pro Tools a lot of the time. In terms of mixing, I'll write everything and make all my sounds here, because I think I like to end up with everything, if possible, as audio when I'm mixing anyway. And also, I think about it archivally as well, because I think in 20 years' time, is somebody going to be able to open a Live 9 session? Maybe not. You never know. But if you've got audio files, then you absolutely be able to do it.
And I guess all those, coupled with the mixer, all those kind of things we talked about, it's just making it a slightly more complete package.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're kind of looking less elsewhere, basically.
Absolutely.
Cool. Let's have a little look. Someone said MP3 support is a great sleeper featuring no more converting MP3s into WAVs.
Oh, okay. Well, I haven't done that so far since I've got it. So whenever you drop if you dropped an MP3 into Live, it would have to convert into a WAV, because obviously MP3 is a non-linear format. Whereas WAV or AIF are linear. So if you want to do it, in theory, if you want to do any editing, it would need to be a linear format. So any kind of warping or anything like that. So I'll investigate that. Because I'll be interested to see how that works. Because that means Live if it's staying as an MP3, Live must be doing something behind the scenes. It must almost be caching like a linear version of the file in the background.
Into and having GBs of files in the cache. So maybe.
This is what I'm wondering. And I guess going back to the 64-bit question, perhaps that is an area where the 64-bit version would be good, because if you've got like a machine with 16 gig of RAM, if you are able to get away with running the 64-bit version, you would be able to chuck so many files in, and you would have oodles of RAM to work with. So I don't know. I'll tell you one other really cool thing in terms of the device. I mean, they've improved a few of the devices, the basic ones, but EQ8 has kind of had the biggest overhaul, and it's really great. It's really, really nice what they've done with it. So if we look at this here now, this looks pretty much like how we would remember it. Okay, this is let's have a look. Have I got one on the beat? Yeah, that's a bit of an easier one to deal with. So this is the one that's like on the whole of my beat. I'll just fold up my. Okay. So this is our EQ that's across the whole return of my beat. So if we just run this, so straight away, the first thing we can see is we've got a spectrum analyzer built into it, okay, which we can turn off, because the thing you've got to remember is that is going to incur a CPU over here. Yeah. Depending on what you do with it.
Ghost.
They've kind of ghosted it behind, but it's really useful because you can just see what's going on in the track. Okay. Now, so we've got that there, but it's kind of small. So one really good thing they've added is that we can pop that up like that, so we can get this really big view of the EQ. And then down here we've got settings to do with like how quickly the spectrum refreshes, and if you want, you can get really, really sort of like really, really fine a fine view of what's happening in the spectrum. Now you see this little status here. When I move up through it, it shows us the frequency, but it also shows us like the approximate musical note that is.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Right. So if you've got a sample with a mute that's got musical sort of stuff in it, and there's one note that like jumps out, say it's like what we got there, F, then you can actually go in and go, well, look, I'll try like pulling that down there around.
So
F.
you could just cut out you know what you don't.
Yeah,
want.
just it just gives you. It's a good sort of it's just a little helper. You know, it's just a nice little helper. So this view is great. Being able to work like this, it's so handy. Now another thing that they've done is we can marquee all of the some or all of the nodes. So if I just get those three, and then move all of those at the same time.
Oh, right, okay.
And then as I'm moving that, we're seeing something else, okay, which is the down here, adaptive cue. Okay, and adaptive cue basically means that if you've got like, especially we'll be able to notice it on this one, as you turn it up, the cue narrows. The cue being like the width of the EQ boost or cut. It starts to narrow as you get higher and higher, which is actually really handy because if you ever do extreme boosts or cuts, a lot of the time you're going to want to change the cue. You know, you're either going to want to widen it or narrow it.
Going to, aren't you?
Whereas this, you've got already. If you leave that switched on, it a lot of the time it will do a good job of getting you where you want to go, or almost where you want to go.
And then you might have to only tweak it a little bit.
Exactly. So if I sort of just run that, okay. And then we've also got this preview mode. So we've got the familiar little blue headphones. When that's on, if I click on one of these, they call them filters in the live EQ, one of the filters, basically what we're hearing is the effect that filter is having on the sound, okay?
Right, okay.
So if I turn it up, we can hear what that's doing to that EQ on that channel. Now, one thing that takes a little while to get used to is when it's around 0 dB, you don't hear anything. Because you're not boosting or cutting. So that was a little bit. I must admit, when I first used it, I was like, I can't hear. Like I had the default EQ, and I'm clicking on the nodes, thinking, why can't I hear anything? And then I realised, it's only playing you the effect that it's having.
Okay.
And so when you do, if we just play this part. So if that's on, so I click that, we're not really getting anything. You hear the reverb coming back. But you see, when I pull it down, you hear it coming back. Because it's it's whether it's a boost or a cut is not important. It's basically telling you, this is the area of the audio that I am impacting and how much I'm impacting on it, whether it's a boost or a cut. Okay, so it's handy. It's really handy. It's not quite as sort of useful as I use. I feel like I always go on about this whenever I come on it. I'm a great evangelist for Isotope Alloy, which is a fantastic channel strip, and not just in Alloy, in Ozone, some of their other plugins, you can like alt and click in the EQ and just solo that band, and you can change the cue and move up and down. That's great.
It's even more precise.
Yeah. But this is an incredibly big improvement on the EQ. It's very, very, very good.
I think again, it's kind of Ableton looking to make it a complete package. Don't go elsewhere for your EQ.
Exactly.
We've got what you need. Basically.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's really good. And the thing is, I quite liked EQ8 already.
I
thought it was pretty good already, but now this just makes it really usable.
Especially that view.
Yeah, it's just so good being able to. I guess really with this, they're breaking out of that criticism of live about the interface, about the sort of inflexibility of the interface.
Having everything bunched at the bottom.
Exactly, but now you can pop that out and it's good. It's really good. And having the spectrum, I think, built into it is really, really handy.
Definitely, that's really cool. I don't think I ever use it without. At home, so.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. We've got a couple more questions coming in. Someone's asked about Push. Have you had a go on Push yet?
I haven't.
No, I've seen one downstairs actually.
Yeah, apparently there's one floating around somewhere in the college, but me and Push haven't crossed paths yet.
No, I've only seen it boxed. I've just got that close. No hands on there.
Yeah, I think there's. I saw this.
Is there one?
And if we can have a look here, I saw this when I came in, and I thought, have they got that for me? And then I was like, hang on a minute.
Oh, what a
I don't think there's anything in there.
Ski's taking it home.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, that was my eyes lit up when I sat down.
Yeah.
But,
it does look amazing.
It does. It really looks interesting. The idea of using the grid, the pads as a keyboard is really fascinating to me.
I was chatting to Ski about it, and as a keyboard player, he's found it quite bizarre. I think,
and the thing with me is, I'll say I'm more of a guitarist than I'm a keyboard player. I'm not a very good guitarist, but if somebody said to me, play C minor on a guitar, I can do it straight away. But on a keyboard, I can do it, but I would go, just give me a second. And I would like have to go, that note, that ding, there we go. So the idea that it behaves, I guess it does behave in a slightly more guitar-y way, because it's like once you learn the shape, you just move the shape around. It's the same as on a guitar. If you learn the shape of a chord, you just play it wherever you want. So it's really
very interesting. Yeah, I mean, stay locked. I'm sure that in a couple of weeks or something, we're probably going to have. We're going to have Freddie. He's going to come in with a push, so I think we'll be able to get pretty much.
I'll be watching that.
Yeah, definitely. I can't wait. Freddie will have to wrestle it off me, I think.
Absolutely.
Cool. So what else have we got? Someone's asked if they've done anything to the piano roll in a new version.
They have. Well done. That's really cool. Okay, so let's just open up this clip here. There's a few little things that they've done, but get out of my envelope view here. Okay. So one of the main things that they've done is in the notes section here, we've got a few sort of handy things built in that before were either not there or you would have to drill down into the menus to do. We've got a dedicated transpose section here. Okay, whereas before you had to kind of take your life in your hands and grab everything and move it up and down.
Which I still do in Logic.
Yeah, absolutely. So what you can do here is, so I've selected everything. I can like move stuff up and down like that, you know. Or you can just go in there and type -12 to do like an octave down, you know, or 12 to do an octave up. So that's quite handy.
Again, it's a workflow thing, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. So I said, so to that earlier questioner, really, this has got a lot to do with workflow as well. And we've also got, when you select when I've marqueed a bunch of notes there, and you notice here we get these pseudo markers come up. These are like note length markers that come up when I go in the ruler here. So I can get in there, and you can like stretch your MIDI. It's a bit like you would do like with warping. Yeah.
What kind of effect does it have?
Oh well, it'll probably make it go crazy.
Yeah. I see. Right, yeah.
It has the effect of a drummer falling down the stairs. I think it's basically what it does. So that's quite handy. Now, other things that they've brought in here are, and again, some of this stuff is stuff that either existed but it was hard to find, or existed for audio and stuff like that.
Right. Okay.
We can double the speed of the parts, or we can, okay, you can like halve it. We can reverse the MIDI.
Oh, right.
Which is
at the
pretty
click
cool.
of a button. Yeah.
It's like, so it's quite,
I guess for a little drop or something, that's
exactly. And just cool. Inspiration, just like, and then, well, even more so for inspiration, invert. So with invert, it will just take the top and the bottom and flip it around.
Okay.
So if we like invert it like that.
Oh, right.
So now, like the hi-hat is playing the kick drum. JC's headbanging.
JC's loving it.
It's turned from like a sort of Afrobeat thing into like a 80s thrash metal. But so
I think for me as well, that's something in live that has always been interesting. The kind of the inspiration and the kind of experimental side of it. You can kind of think out the box so easily.
Yeah. Absolutely. Also in this section, we have got, now this for me is something that I've wanted for ages, is a legato button, okay?
Right.
Which this isn't necessarily the best thing to illustrate it on, but you click the legato button and it will just like, all the notes will go up to the next note. Okay. So if you've got something where you've triggering a sample and you just want to make sure it always plays up to the next note, you can do that there, which is really handy. And then this is, again as well, not sexy, but really cool, duplicate loop. So basically, I've got my part there, what have we got, 8 bars, hit duplicate loop, I've got 16 bars, and it moves the loop braces at the same time. Okay. So we've now got a full 16 bar clip in there. So, it's not like, how I could get all of those and duplicate them.
Yeah.
But then I would have to change the loop brace as well. It's cool. And also you can do this all live. You can do this all on the fly live.
That must come into play a lot. If you're
absolutely.
a live performer,
Absolutely.
Definitely.
So in terms of the piano roll, they've made some really, really good tweaks there. Definitely.
Cool. We've got another one. Black Rats has said, can you give any info on the convolution reverb?
Oh, this is fantastic. You people are doing my job for me. It's brilliant. You know what? I'm using one already. Okay. So the convolution reverb. This is convolution reverb Pro, which is a Max for Live effect. Okay. So as far as I'm aware, this is only going to come with Suite.
Right. Okay.
I'm not sure if there's another device. I don't believe so in live, but this is in Suite. So for those not familiar. Convolution reverb is reverb that is basically a sampling of a real space.
Right.
Okay? So whereas algorithm reverb, which is like the standard reverb in live or almost anything else, any sort of digital reverb, that is simulating a reverb. That's simulating a space. Whereas convolution reverb is actually a sample, like an impulse, a set of measurements taken of a real space, and then you can apply that to your audio.
Wow.
Now, I've not used any part of this in terms of creating my own impulses, because you can do that, and I know in a couple of our modules here we do that.
Yeah, definitely.
You've probably been in the office and you hear strange whooping noises coming from the corridor.
Or some sort of mic down a corridor.
That's it. Yeah. So what we do in that's in the mixing module, the art of mixing. We create an impulse of the corridor outside the studios, and we do that by putting a speaker at one end and a mic or a couple of mics at the other end. We use the Space Designer impulse creation utility, and it sends this sweep out, which is recorded, and then it does this. What do they call it? Is it I forget what, I think it's deconvolve or something like that they call it. And basically they take all of those frequencies in that sweep and put them all into the same moment. Right. So the idea is it's creating this map of the room, of how that room reacts to sound. And then it takes that, you deconvolve it takes that and it turns it into a preset for Space Designer. So this is basically the same thing, and as far as I'm aware,
a lot easier than setting up all of that stuff.
It is, but if you want to, there is a utility in there to bring your own impulses in.
Which I guess it's got to be new to Ableton, right?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So so this is the convolution reverb as you get with Suite. It's got a bunch of presets in it already, lots of real spaces. The one I'm using at the moment is St Albans Cathedral, which I've been to.
So you can testify, right?
Yeah, that's why I haven't been. I was quite young. I think it might have been a school trip, you know. But St Albans, one of the smallest cities in the UK. And anywhere with a cathedral's a city. Don't forget. Right, so it's a tiny little place, but it is a city. But yeah, St Albans Cathedral, very beautiful. But so this is basically a sampling of St Albans Cathedral, and it's 3.54 seconds long. But we can tweak that up and sort of, I've pushed that up to like 22 seconds there. If we just run it a bit. If I slap loads of the snare into it. Okay, so I can start to really sort of really start to get silly on it. And as you push that size up, you almost start to hear it get wider, which is really good. But it's decent, this is thoroughly decent. There's some really good presets in it. And again, just the fact that this just comes now with Suite, because it comes with Max for Live, and this is one of the packs of Max for Live presets. It's fantastic. Oh, it's still going, I think.
Yeah, I think
it's just finished.
Going.
Yeah. So I do. I like it a lot. I'm very impressed. And with the Max for Live stuff in general, some of the effects that come with it are pretty crazy, in a really good way. I'll tell you one.
That's definitely one thing about Ableton. Those effects, weird little things that are just again really creative and really good for getting ideas kind of together.
Yeah, this one here. Oh, I forget the name. I just slapped this on last night, and I forget the name of this device. I do apologise, but it's like a little sort of step filter, which can do quite
It's like ravey, Prodigy.
Yeah. I mean, the sound coming into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm side-chained with this sound to give it a little bit more movement, but then, you know, you can really, really sort of start to get silly on it, and you like give it even more steps. You know, it's great.
Yeah.
It's really nice. But I've barely scratched the surface of the live effects. The buffer shuffler, of course, that is a fantastic effect.
I don't think I've seen the buffer.
Which is the buffer shuffler is kind of it's a much better version of beat repeat. Like,
right, which is a wicked effect anyway.
Yeah. But buffer shufflers, the thing with beat repeat, I always find is that it's a bit of a dark art getting it to do what you want.
Yeah.
You just kind of go.
I tell you,
ooh.
Freddie's amazing. With
Oh
beat
yeah,
repeat.
well, I'll be in the YouTube comments when Freddie's on saying, "Can you give us a beat repeat masterclass?"
Brilliant. Freddie, if you're watching, you know, it's coming soon. What else have we got in here? Convolution reverb we've done. Oh, we've got compliments on the double camera, the vision mixing. Well done, Nick.
That was his mum.
Thanks, mate.
What else have we got? Alan Rahul's asked, does upgrading Live 9 still keep your previous automations? I'm a little bit concerned if it affects my current projects.
Okay. Well, I've opened up a few projects in 9 that were done in 8. I could just try opening one up now.
Give it a go.
Why don't we just see what happens? Right, let's have a look. I've saved this. Let's see what we've got here. Boom. Oh, actually, I've opened one up. I'm not sure if this has actually got. Oh no, I don't think this is. Oh, and I haven't got my iLock plugged in. Silly sausage. Let's just see what happens here. Yeah, this is. Well, yeah, some of the plugins here aren't going to be working because I haven't plugged in my iLock. So this is I think this is a session that I used. Oh well, there we go. It doesn't like that. So, and I wouldn't be surprised if that is a third-party plugin issue that has happened there. So, oh well. Yeah.
So what about with the previous Ableton 8 projects you've opened in 9?
They've been totally fine. Yeah, I mean, I opened up a couple last night, and they were totally fine. So yeah, automation. I guess I didn't notice anything. I would want to kind of check it. Maybe if I get a chance, sort of after this, I'll have a look and I'll post something in the comments.
I mean, it also might be something worth checking with Ableton. I'm sure that they've got.
And also, this is what the trial is for as well. Look, here we go. Yes, it was one of my Abbey Road Brilliance Pack plugins, which has caused this crash. So it's a shame. I really love those plugins. But to be honest, it may be if I had the iLock plugged in, it doesn't invoke that protection thing, and it'd be fine. But this is one thing to remember. I think it's 9.0.1 is the version that they've released, and third-party plugins. It's always in the initial stages of release. Is always going to be a little bit.
Yeah, they can't kind of look at every single thing.
So don't judge it on the fact that it didn't like very much me trying to open that old thing. But it was a third-party plugin that caused that crash. So. Yeah.
We've got Evan has asked about if Rewire works with version 9. My Ableton Rewire connection disappeared from the master application in the trial version.
I haven't tried it yet. I have to confess. If you want to have a look, see if there's anything else there, I could plug my iLock in and find out.
Give it a go.
If you like. This could go horribly wrong.
We're used to it. Don't worry about it.
Let's see. Yeah, this is real, like sort of seat of our pants production here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to commit the ultimate sin and open Pro Tools. But all I'm going to open Pro Tools for is so that I'm going to open Pro Tools and then I'm going to open Live, and I'm going to see if Live says, "Oh, hello." I'm running in Rewire mode. So yeah, that's going to be interesting.
Pro Tools I don't think we've looked at before on
No,
Friday Forum.
It's it's another world, isn't it? So let's open up Live 9. I've not put it in my dock yet. Here we go. So it would appear yes.
Yeah.
Because it's telling me live has detected another rewire master application. No rewire slave applications will be available for use, etc. So it would seems to me that you know, I haven't actually tested it, but it's definitely there.
Yeah,
so, yeah. And obviously remember, you know, when you're running rewire mode, VSTs and audio units won't work. If you've got any of those in your session, they will just be disabled.
Yeah.
So anything like that, you're probably going to want to bounce the tracks as audio or freeze. I'm not sure if maybe they would work if you froze them.
Okay.
I guess it freezed. So yeah, I'll quit out of that and I'll come back to regular live.
Okay. Well, I mean, as we're kind of approaching the end of the session, have you got anything else you wanted to go through?
Well, I'll tell you, let me just set this going again. In terms of the devices as well, going back to the devices, there was one that I kind of just wanted to quickly look at, which was the compressor. So we've had the glue, but this is like, you might think, oh, they brought the glue in, therefore the standard, the stock compressor is now no use. But it is. It's still there and it's still working. Okay. So I've got it on this. Where's this? I think this is on this funny channel I've got here. So yeah. So I've got it here. And if you look at it, anyone who knows the original compressor for live will know that this does look a little bit different.
Yeah, definitely.
So basically what they've done is they've added a few different views, okay? So this is very handy, and this is a kind of view you see quite a lot on compressors and dynamics processors generally now. Also the gate, the live gate has this now as well. So this is an activity view. So this is actually showing us what is happening.
Right.
Like in a linear fashion. Okay.
Yeah.
So we can see that thing that looks like, you know, out of a film when somebody's on a heart monitor or something like that.
Yeah.
This is sidechained from the kick drum. So
you can see it actively being sidechained. Right.
Yeah. So that's our sidechain there. So you see when I solo it, we can see the sidechain signal there, and it's showing us what the compressor's doing based on the signal that's coming in. So this is a really useful tool to have. You can see over time what the compressor is actually doing. We've also got our old favourite, the graph, you know, this is what I used to teach when I'm teaching compression. That's a perfect, even if I'm not doing it in live, what I'm drawing on the whiteboard is basically what you see there. And then we have this sort of stripped down view as well. So this is just like, you know, gets stuff out of the way. If you've got a really complicated rack with like loads of devices in it, then you might want to use that sort of simplified view. They've also one other thing they've done is they've added an expand mode.
Right, okay.
So that's an upwards compressor now.
Right, yeah.
So you can actually like use the compressor to make stuff louder. So it basically just flips the response of it on its head.
Boosting stuff.
Yeah. So if you're quite clever with that, you can do some kind of like transient processing type tricks where you're like making things a little bit snappier and stuff like that. If you combine that with the side chain, then you could to a degree you could kind of, you know, if you didn't want to shell out for SPL Transient Designer or something like that, you could kind of do something similar there. Yeah,
I guess if you've got a hold of it, you can start sculpting stuff a bit more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that activity view is very, very cool. Yeah. That's really, really nice. And the auto release as well has been improved. The release itself has been improved as well. I quite like the live compressor already, but I think this is a great improvement. This is really, really good. That activity view, honestly, that is so useful, just being able to see exactly what's going on. Because you know it's like, you get a mix going and you don't realise that at one point in the mix your compressor's just going, wow, just completely nailing it. And now you can actually see it going past. Like
I think always having that kind of visual representation, I think me and JC have talked about it before, you know, it's such a valuable thing to be able to see what's going on.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. Oh, and it's also got linear and logarithmic envelopes now as well, so you can like use different sort of envelope shapes on the compression, which is great. It's really good.
Cool. I mean, anything else you want to go through?
We could quickly, I could quickly look at the gate. I mean, that's only going to be a sort of momentary thing because it's very similar to what they've done with the compressor. If I just chuck that there, to just give you a little tour of this. So they've added a few things here. Probably the most. It's a bit of a strange one to use on the gate. Okay, but anyway, so they've given you that activity view, which on a gate is possibly even more useful than a compressor. But what's really good is that we've now got this return value here. So obviously, look, that's our threshold there. So you can see me moving the threshold up and down. but we've got this return value here. Now, this is sometimes, you see in some gates, they call this hysteresis, I believe. Right. And basically, by using this, you have two different thresholds. You have the threshold for when sound's coming up, and then you have the threshold for when sound's going down. Okay. Yeah, and generally speaking, you want that to be lower going down, because what that does is it eliminates that chatter you get, where the sound's very close to the threshold and it's sort of like little bits sort of cut through. Okay. If you tweak this enough, you can get it to be really smooth and kind of, you know, basically you're kind of creating this dead zone in the middle, which is if it's in there, don't close the compressor yet. Only when you get down so far, then
you just trap
close
it in that little area.
Exactly. So that's really handy. And yeah, I mean, you know, I can definitely see myself using that quite a lot. Particularly if I'm doing anything with sort of live drums and stuff like that, you know. But even for tidying up vocals and stuff like that, using that return value could be really handy. Definitely, really handy.
Okay, cool. Well, I think that's kind of approaching time. So big thank you, Anthony.
My pleasure.
Coming down.
My pleasure, as ever.
Yeah, it was wicked. It's really good to see some of those new features, stuff that I definitely haven't seen before in Live 9. Also, it's worth saying, if you do want to learn a bit more about Ableton, you know, if you want to get a bit deeper into it, if you're new to it, head over to pointblankonline.net. We've got a whole range of courses, everything from kind of the basics of production with an Ableton through to the much more advanced stuff like sound design and mixing, genre-specific stuff as well. All those courses available now, and I think the next enrolment date is starting on April the 1st. So a few weeks to get signed up and get ready to go. Also, check out the Facebook page, the blog, the YouTube channel for all the past Friday Forum sessions, the masterclasses, everything like that we've done. And that's it for another week at Friday Forum. We'll be back, I think, actually before Friday. We've got a very special masterclass on Wednesday with River Star, cool. Which should be a really good session. So lock in for that. That's 4 o'clock on Wednesday. And if I'm not there, I'll see you back on Friday. So thanks for watching. Cheers.